Life comes with a lot of decisions, and it can be hard to know the right path sometimes. A therapist can help you map out what you really want, so you trust yourself to make great choices and feel excited about the future. BetterHelp offers convenient professional online therapy on your schedule, however you want it, by phone, chat, or video call. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/positive today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/positive.
You need on-the-go convenience. Novex Smart Hub delivers. Pay your electric bills, view your energy use, report an outage, and receive alerts regarding your account. With Smart Hub, use your credit card with no processing fees. Level out your monthly electric bills by enrolling in budget billing through Smart Hub. Easily access it through Novex mobile app or at Novec.com. You're on the go. Novex Smart Hub goes with you.
Let's do this thing. Go!
Sports Daily is on KFH.
Welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily on KFH. Tommy, we got Salvador Perez news. Hit me.
John Morosi from Major League Baseball, one of the reporters, insiders for baseball, has an update on Salvador Perez, saying that the market is quiet at the moment for Salvador Perez. He's got full no-trade protection, which we've not really discussed that part of what Salvador Perez has in his contract, and the Royals value his presence as they add young talent. He's got obviously 2 years and $44 million remaining on his contract after this season. Of course, John Morosi with MLB Network reporting that today, that right now there are no conversations about Salvador Perez being traded.
Yeah, I mean, the full no trade came up when this very first came up, and it sounds to me like he's willing to waive that for the right situation. I don't know what his eagerness is to do that. But it does limit potentially your trade partners. Like if he doesn't like the landing spot, the bigger hangup is going to be that money. He's owed $22 million a year the next 2 years. That's the hangup, and that's where. And we talked about this in the beginning. Like if there is a trade partner out there who is willing to give you something that makes your organization definitively better down the road, then John Sherman's got to pony up and eat some or a lot of that money. That's what you can do as an owner to show the fans that you're ready to win, is you can help facilitate a move like that. But, Tommy, if there's not, even if he's willing to do that, like if this isn't a trade that brings you back legitimate prospects, right? Like don't trade Salvador Perez just to trade him. If you get good players back, okay. But if nobody's going to offer up much for Salvador Perez, then don't trade him, because he does offer value to the organization. There are two players for the Kansas City Royals that people want to see play baseball, that people care about seeing play baseball: Salvador Perez and Bobby Witt Jr. That's it. So if you're going to trade, Perez, but it's just because you're like, well, he's not really going to help us in the rebuild on the field because no, he will help you. He'll help you because he's one of the very, 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 very few things that people actually care about when you're talking about fans going to baseball games. Your organization at least having a face to it, right? Salvador Perez is going to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, it's okay to hang on to that if nobody's willing to give you anything. I never like this idea, and you hear it all the time, of like you have to trade somebody just because you're not winning this year. Well, what do you do? You're wasting your time. Why do you have to have them? Like, no, you don't. Not in every situation, right? Like, that's not always the case. If you're not going to get anything back for Salvador Perez and you're not going to save money, which nobody cares that the Royals are saving money, right? There's no need to do that. Then don't trade him. He's everything to your franchise. He is on the Mount Rushmore of your franchise. Probably, for most people, number 2 of important players in your team's history with George Brett. I think for a lot of people that didn't actively watch George Brett play baseball, he's number 1. So be careful here. Don't just do it to do it. If there's not a good trade partner, then hang on. Who cares? Salvador Perez is great.
And I wonder what Perez's feeling is if there was a trade market for him as far as waiving his no trade clause. And I really haven't thought about that part of it. You know, the fact that he's a veteran and he's got that no trade protection, you know, in his contract right now for being around for so long, knowing that the Royals are in a rebuild, that it's going to take a while, right? And it's just this continuous rebuild. I mean, really, the Royals have done Salvador Perez a disservice by, I mean, he was involved in the World Series run. He was very young when that happened, but he was a key component of both of those World Series runs in 2014 and 2015. I remember the play in the wild card game against the Athletics in 2014. So he's been around for a while, but his prime years, the Royals have been really, really bad. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel. So I wonder if there was a team, and it'd probably depend upon the team, but if there was a team that approached the Royals with a substantial trade offer or whatever that is Perez inclined to waive his no trade clause? I don't know. I have no idea. That may be part of the reason why the trade market is very quiet around him, because he's saying, I'm probably going to exercise that clause and not be traded. I want to play in Kansas City. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that could very easily persuade teams to not even approach the Royals with a trade offer if they're all under the impression that Perez wants to be in Kansas City and will probably invoke that no trade clause.
I think it would be far more likely next year with 1 year left on the deal. Even 2 years from now, like if you're Perez, because Perez loves the Royals, he's a family guy, doing that for a half a season would be far more, if I'm in Salvador Perez's shoes, would be far more appealing than doing it now. I get it, and I don't like when people hold it against players who don't want to be traded. Like, you built the no trade in there for a reason, and both sides agreed to it. I suspect that Salvador Perez put it in there for the same reason that I would put it in there. I would be willing to take less money, whatever, but you can't just ship me away from my family. Like, you can't do that. I have no interest in that at this stage of my life. And I would suspect, again, based on what we know about Salvador Perez, that there's some of that in there. You got to think, like, sometimes we don't humanize athletes enough because so often it is all about the money, right? But what is it reasonable, Tommy, that winning another World Series when you have one is not as important as not potentially being away from your young family for 2.5 years? Really? Because that's what would happen here.
Yeah, and again, I go back to the fact that this rebuild has been so bungled by the Royals over the last 5-6 years that out of everybody that has a right to be upset and frustrated and angry with that, it's Salvador Perez, because this guy was in the prime of his career, and he's got really, really productive years left, I would think. But man, like, I remember the 2019 year, and he hit 50 some home runs, and the Royals were terrible. It's like, think if the team was a contender then, or the fact that, I could see Salvador Perez saying, all right, I'm going to hang on with this franchise as they rebuild. I'll be in my early 30s. I'll have a good young nucleus around me. We're going to build this thing up. We're going to make ourselves a contender. And then I can bookend my career with World Series runs at the beginning and at the end of my career. And there's none of that in sight right now. If I'm Perez, I would absolutely be frustrated with the way that this organization has bungled the rebuild over the last several years.
Yeah, it was 2021 when he had 48 home runs that you were referencing there. In his age, that would have been his age 31 season. He's Tommy. Like, everyone thinks Salvador Perez is so old because he came up at such a young age. He's 33. Like, he's not that old. He's an all-star essentially every year. Just offensively speaking, probably this year, he's around as a catcher. Probably, where would he be? Probably still around the top 5 or so catchers offensively in baseball. Overall bat, he still, I think, plays where he can rotate around at DH. This isn't the year he's had in the past couple of years probably, But he's on pace for about 30 home runs this year as a catcher, hitting about 250. I think that he's got value. He doesn't have value to another team at $22 million a year.
No.
But, again, this is the face of a generation of your baseball team. This is a guy who has become an American citizen, who loves Kansas City. I mean, he should be as big a personality to the market as Mahomes and Kelsey. I mean, I know football's king, but that's the kind of impact he's had there. So it is okay to not trade him if you're the Royals. I totally get it. And it is also okay, because if it comes to this, and I really hope that it doesn't, that it's like Salvador Perez, they had a deal and he invoked his no trade. Because that's going to make fans mad, and it should not make fans mad. The guy doesn't want to leave Kansas City. Take that as a compliment, right? He doesn't want to leave his family for 2.5 years. All right, see you guys later. I'll see you I'll see you in the wintertime. No, I get it. You put those no trades in there for a reason. Now, 2 years from now, if there's not as much money on the books and he's still, a 25 to 30 home run, 260-ish hitter, and they want to trade Salvador Perez, and even if it's more to give Salvador Perez a chance at a postseason run and you get whatever back, that's when it makes more sense, right? That's when, if you're Perez and you're this family guy, it's okay, well, now I'm going to take, what would it be, 4 months, 5 months away from the family to run out this baseball season. That, to me, seems far more reasonable. Now, I could be wrong about that. Salvador Perez could say, yeah, trade me. I want to go win somewhere. And that's fine, too. He builds the no trade in for a reason. Both sides agreed to that clause. It's every right that he has to say, nope, not going anywhere. Thanks. Pay me here. I'll play my best, and I'll help these young guys, which does have value. And that's what the Royals are citing in that report, right, is that they want his impact on the young players. And I do think that has some value in baseball, maybe as much as any sport, to just have mentorship, especially when it's Salvador Perez, who's a Latin American player, and especially when Latin American players are so heavy into baseball and need to be a part, right, through the international portion of the development of what the Royals do in the future. Having Salvador Perez there, who's done it all the right way, yeah, that does have some value for an organization.
Yeah, it's going to be sad for me, I think, in 10 years when Salvador Perez is done with baseball, to look back and, realize the opportunities that were squandered. With his talent and marketability and, everything that Salvador Perez is and has been in his career, and knowing how bad the Royals were. I think back to, the mid 2000s when the Royals were god awful. And there was that stretch where they were losing 100 games. It seemed like every single year there was no hope, no future. And there was really one guy I felt like at that time that hung on with the franchise, and that was Mike Sweeney. And Mike Sweeney was a nice player, and a good representative for the Royals, but not at the level of Salvador Perez as far as his popularity. This is kind of the same thing where you've got a really, really bad team and a really, really popular player. And it's going to be a bummer to me to look back on his career when it's all done, especially if he stays with the Royals for the duration, and feeling like, man, there were opportunities to build teams around him, and it was bungled. It never worked out with the organization to be able to do that in the right way.
Yeah, it'll be okay. Salvador Perez won a World Series. He was a part of, the greatest run probably in team history. He was at the centerpiece of it. I don't think we need to be sad about any of this. In 2014, 15, 16, he was great. He was an all-star each of those years. He was just entering his prime as a player. He is given, quite frankly, the team-friendly deals for most of his career. So you can miss me with the fact that he's overpaid, because before this contract, he was criminally underpaid based on production. Go back and look at his first contract, by the way, based on his production. He's been nothing but great to the Royals. If they don't want to trade him and he doesn't want to be traded, I have absolutely no issue with that. And I really hope that people don't try to, paint some I didn't want to be traded and win. Why? Winning is everything. Winning's a lot. Winning ain't everything, man. Family's everything. And if he doesn't want to be traded for that reason, That's fine. That's fine with me. Seeing him there in a Royals cap at the All-Star game with his big old personality, that's got value too. And I'm perfectly happy if that's the way this plays out. The reality is nobody's going to trade for his money anyway. So the Royals may not be that motivated to go out and eat $22 million. That's the part of it that makes it difficult. And let's be real honest, Salvador Perez, a Hall of Famer. I don't think even if the money wasn't a factor, he's bringing back just some massive package anymore. He would help a lot of teams, but he's a 33-year-old catcher who's not going to be catching for much longer. So then it's as a DH, and that value does go down in the market. I mean, that's the reality of it. But if nothing happens, I'll be happy. I hope Salvador Perez rides off into the sunset as a Royal and goes into goes into Cooperstown with a Royals cap on, because that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, I think that he's right at the cusp of doing that, and knowing that, John Morosi is reporting that there really is no traction on any kind of talks. I think if there was, it'd be more than likely that we were going to see him traded. And I know that there was a period of time where, it seemed not likely, but it seemed like a real possibility on the table that the Royals could move him, and maybe they still will. But I didn't really understand the terms necessarily of his contract, the money that's left, the no trade clause, all of that. Those are all hurdles and obstacles for any team that potentially would want him. Does Salvi want to go there? Does he want to leave? And, he's been on the record saying that he loves Kansas City. So I think that at the end of the day, it would be different. And you talked about the fan base, or some fans not being happy, that he's not traded. But I think that the majority of the fan base, it'd be different if he was blocking somebody, and he's not, right?
What if he does? But what if he does?
But we're not there yet, right? And so that's not a case right now. He's got 2 years left on his contract. He's not blocking anybody. And even if, let's say that there's a big hotshot catcher coming up, I mean, Salvi's going to be a DH, right? Right. I don't see, there are options on the table where he can remain a Royal long-term, and I don't think there really be a big argument that he's blocking anybody.
What if he did, though? How do you think fans would handle that? What if it was, it's not even a hypothetical to say there was a big trade package for him, because that's not going to happen, even if the money's not but a package, right? Hey, there's a trade partner on the hook. Salvador Perez is blocking. He doesn't want to go to, wherever it is. How do you think fans are going to handle that? I've laid it out. I would have no issue with that, because Salvador Perez earned the right to put that in his contract. But how do you think fans would receive that?
I think you'd be split. I mean, I think that the emotional side of it, people are going to want to see Salvi continue with the Royals, but I don't know. I mean, it's a really, really difficult predicament. And that's why, just in general, with the Salvador Perez situation, with the Major League Baseball draft, with these young players, the entire thing, the front office for the Royals, they have painted themselves into so many corners right now where there's really not just a clear-cut, really simple answer for how we get from point A to point B. There are a lot of moving parts here. There are really very few, if any, clear-cut, this is the right way to go moving forward. I think that that's what makes this so difficult for the Royals.
Yeah, I agree. And the fans are turning on the organization, too.
Yep.
Absolute worst time, you're going to try and beg them for a new ballpark. I don't know. We'll see. Trade deadline is here. If it's not Salvi, it's got to at least be Scott Barlow, maybe Hernandez out of the bullpen. I do think that's probably where you start. Outside of that, I don't think there's anything there. Don't trade Bobby Witt Jr. Be crazy, by the way. Don't listen to those people. They're nuts to trade that kind of player right now. 869-1240 is the IHOP hotline. We'll come back. Congratulations, by the way, to Neil for winning some HTO today. Beat the Heat. Double Drips Rewards Day there. If you're an HTO fan, you can get double rewards, by the way. Sports Daily, coming right back. We'll have more. It's all Brockton Caster on KFH.
Nationals baseball is in full swing.
Strike three called. He got him looking. That's 10 strikeouts for Mackenzie Gore.
With the free Odyssey app, local fans can listen live all summer long, whether you're at the grill or at the pool.
Going, and gone, goodbye! C.J. Abrams, a grand slam.
Nationals baseball. Nationals announcers streaming live on the free Odyssey app. AUDACY. Get in the game and download it today.
We all have tasks we'd like to avoid, like mailing and shipping. It takes time lugging all those letters and packages to the post office. That's why you should try Stamps.com. For 25 years, Stamps.com has made mailing and shipping easy. You get all the services of the post office right on your computer, anytime. No traffic, no waiting, no hassle. Plus, you save money with discounts up to 84% on USPS and UPS. With Stamps.com, all you need is a computer and printer. Print stamps, print shipping labels, and if you sell products online, Stamps.com connects with every major marketplace and shopping cart, so you can spend less time on shipping and more time on your business. Get started with Stamps.com today. Sign up with promo code PROGRAM for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, plus postage and a digital scale. Just go to Stamps.com and enter code PROGRAM.